And then there was one, the final home game of the 2023 football season coming up for the Clemson Tigers, Death Valley, Senior Day, and the North Carolina Tar Heels, another top 25 matchup for Dabo Swinney and the Tigers. It's going to be another exciting day for Clemson coming off two huge wins. The ship looks like it's been righted. The winds are back in the sails. And we're going to break the game down, talk all about it here on this episode of Around the Paul. I'm Garrett Mitchell, joined as always by Griffin Barfield and Clifton Kennedy. And guys, when you looked at the schedule before the season started, I'm not sure that everybody anticipated the circumstances under which this game would be played, with Clemson coming in at 6-4. But this game against North Carolina was certainly a contest that everybody had circled on their calendars, a game that could have had huge implications, and really, for all intents and purposes, still very well could, because the Clemson Tigers have a chance to play spoiler to Drake May and the Tar Heels.
Yeah, and a little bit of a revenge game for North Carolina, losing in the ACC championship game last year to Clemson. The stakes were raised a little bit higher, but yeah, like you said, Clemson, all they have to do this for the rest of the year is just play spoiler, and what better time to do it against a North Carolina team that has tons of talent on all aspects of the field. So it's going to be an exciting game for sure.
I agree. I agree with y'all. I'm super excited for this game too, with the guys coming off the two great wins of Notre Dame and Georgia Tech. Um, I don't think the South Carolina game is going to be a spoiler. I think we're just going to run all over them, and they suck anyway. So
A little bit of revenge.
yeah, a little bit of revenge from last year, but. We got to handle our business against UNC first. We got to handle, the North Carolina before we handle the South Carolina. And, I think if these freshmen come out and play like they did against Georgia Tech, they don't have a chance. UNC doesn't have a chance.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that, and that's no disrespect intended for North Carolina, but it's just right now, and we talked about it in the last episode, something has clicked with this Clemson team. A light bulb has gone off, and right now they just look like a locomotive that's rolling down the tracks and getting faster with every mile. But both teams are coming off wins that were about as far different in contrast as you could possibly get. Clemson steamrolled Georgia Tech. It was as epic a beatdown as a Clemson team has put on somebody in quite some time. The final score is no indication of just how lopsided that game was. Meanwhile, you've got North Carolina coming off of a win, and it was an emotional win at home against the Duke Blue Devils, but one in which they had to fight tooth and nail and scrap and claw from the bottom of the pile to make happen, and they did so in overtime. So, guys, based on what I saw, I just don't know if this North Carolina defense is good enough to slow down the Clemson run game and what they are able to do the last 2 weeks. And look, Drake May is a great quarterback, and we're going to talk his numbers and some of the offensive numbers for the Tar Heels in a few minutes. But this Clemson defense is just playing at such a high level right now. It's on a different planet. I just don't know how much time Drake May is going to have to remain upright.
The biggest thing for me in this game, we're going to look at both aspects of it. It's going to be the Clemson defense against the North Carolina offense, which I think is just fireworks. Get your popcorn ready. These are two of the best units in the country. On the other side, you have the Clemson offense against the North Carolina defense. At that point, who do you trust more? Do you trust your offense or do you trust your defense more? And for me, I trust Clemson's defense to at least get more stops than North Carolina's defense is going to get stops. But don't get me wrong, North Carolina has probably one of the best offenses in the ACC. They have the guy who has the most passing yards per game in the ACC, in Drake May, obviously. And then they have the top rusher in the ACC with Amarian Hampton. I believe that he averages around over 125 yards per game, which both aspects of the game, air and grounds, that's what you're getting. And, Clemson are going to have, especially the Clemson defense, they're going to have their hands full for sure. But I trust them to get it done more than I trust the UNC defense to get it done over the Clemson offense.
Well, and I was going to throw some numbers out there, and Griffin, you mentioned it. Drake May comes into this ball game with 3,145 yards passing and 21 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. For the season through 10 games, he has a quarterback rating of 157.4. And then you've got Amarian Hampton, who has 1,236 yards rushing and 13 touchdowns. And the leading receiver is Devontae Walker, and he has 600 yards receiving. So it's a North Carolina offense that any way you slice it, it's a very prolific unit. Nobody's disputing that, but at the same time, I would venture to say Clemson has the best defense that Drake May and company will have seen this year.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that, and again, I think the biggest thing with this, I'm gonna talk about what I said about Georgia Tech. Clemson have to play their game, especially on the defensive side. They have to play how they've been playing the last 2 weeks if they want to win. Because as soon as you uncork that North Carolina offense, and you saw a little bit in the ACC championship game, to an extent, but the Clemson defense were able to shut them down especially like towards the end of the game. It could almost be game over because this team loves chaos. They lead the ACC in points per game. I don't know if they lead the ACC in total yards per game, but they're just a team that no matter whatever is not working on the Clemson defense, the North Carolina offense is going to take advantage of, and good luck with trying to stop them as soon as they start getting going.
Yeah, I mean they're just so good. They've got we've already said it. They got Drake May, they got the running back, they got receivers, they got the tight ends. Don't know them all by name, but I mean they have the prolific offense. But I think they're gonna run into a buzzsaw when they hit Clemson because they're gonna be going up against a top 10, top 5 defense in America.
Well, guys, I tell you what, speaking of eating, right now the Clemson defense is eating and eating well, particularly the secondary, because they are gobbling up opposing passes at a rampant rate right now. Just ask Haynes King. Right now, I would have to imagine that Drake May is having a few sleepless nights after watching some game film.
Yeah, but at the same time, this North Carolina this North Carolina offense averages just under 40 points a game, which is nuts.
Yeah.
And looking at total offense, I just found that out. They average 520 yards of total offense per game, which again is nuts. But you have not played a defense like the Clemson defense, and especially with how these freshmen played last week, there's an embarrassment of riches, especially in the secondary. And it starts with Averion Terrell. It starts with guys like Khalil Barnes, who are going to be in the secondary. And then you combine it with guys who have that valuable experience like Andrew Makuba, like Nate Wiggins, as long as he's starting, because I know that he's not going to academic tutoring, which that's why he wasn't starting the last 2 games, but hoping to get him back on the field because he's a top 15 draft pick in some people's mock drafts. And if you need a guy to, contain Devontae Walker, who, he didn't play the first couple games. There was that whole fiasco with the NCAA suspending him because he transferred. He's been balling out too.
Yeah.
So you need a guy to contain him as well. But Drake May knows where to find his receivers, and Clemson. I'm gonna say it time and time again. Clemson is gonna have their hands full with North Carolina, no matter if it's gonna be in Death Valley, no matter with how hot this team is. North Carolina is a very good team, especially in the offensive side, and Clemson should just remain wary for it because you can't let them get hot, especially in this game.
Yeah, and don't forget about Shelton Lewis. He had that pick 6.
Yeah.
So I mean, this defense is loaded, and North Carolina's offense is loaded. So something's got to give. And I really do think that our offense, if they get out of their own way, and they have been doing that the past couple weeks, and just go out there and play ball, we can put up 40 points too. It's just a matter of we have to get out of our own way, and Clemson needs to stop beating Clemson, and I think they've done that. I think they've kind of figured it out. I still think that we're going to have at least one turnover a game. I don't care what you say. It's that type of season.
I think it's just the norm.
So I expect us to at least have one turnover. Yeah. Yeah, but if we can contain the turnovers.
Yeah, if you limit it to 1 turnover and you force 3, then hey, I think you'll take that and you're in good shape. But you talk about how prolific the North Carolina offense is. That's certainly true. And to be perfectly honest, their offense scares me a lot more going into this game than Notre Dame's did, especially knowing that the
Mm-hmm.
tight end for Notre
yeah.
Dame was out and was not going to be a factor. It is going to be a challenge. But conversely, Clifton, to go back and expand on what you were saying, I just don't think as good as their offense is, I don't think North Carolina's defense is very good at all. They're toward the bottom of the ACC, and teams can put up big numbers against them. When they win, they're winning shootouts. And so, as you said, if Clemson can get out of their own way, you continue to block well. Phil Maffa and Will Shipley set the table running the football, and that allows Klubnik to get into a rhythm throwing. Provided you don't self-destruct and turn it over, I'm just really not sure how effectively North Carolina's defense can stop what Clemson does offensively.
Especially at home too. And I think again that's another thing that's huge. North Carolina are second to last in the ACC on pass defense, and that gives Cade a lot more comfortability. But you have to get that run game going. That's the biggest thing. This Clemson offense will only succeed if both the running game and both the passing game is working. And with how I think the offensive line has been playing, which has been very good, especially the last two games with their switch to the zone blocking. I think Clemson are going to find some success on the offense. And do I see this being a high scoring game? I think I do. And
Yeah.
you know me, I've picked Clemson to win games 14-13 in the past. So um, I think both offenses get going, but at the end of the day, it's what defense is going to let the first stop happen. And with how I've seen this Clemson defense and how lights out it's been, I think it's going to be the Clemson defense once again that reigns supreme, especially at home. Once again, it's senior night or it's senior day, so these seniors don't want to lose, and
Mm-mm.
you got plenty of them, especially on the defensive side. They're gonna make sure that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, they're gonna bust their butt and do what it takes. Especially, I think Xavier Thomas is gonna ball out, and all the seniors on the defense are gonna ball out, and
Yeah,
it's gonna be great because you're gonna see a defense that's hungry and an offense that's, I think, it's even more hungry because they've struggled. And but I think we have to have both running backs going like we did last week. Like, not
Yeah.
just one of them. I mean, one of them will help, but I think if you have both of them going at the same time like we did last week, you'll see the same type of point totals that you saw against Georgia Tech, maybe even more.
Right. And, guys, when you look at this game, when you look at some individual matchups, where are some areas that you see, or who are some of the guys that you think need to step up and have big games for Clemson? Maybe even some guys that are under the radar. But I'll tell you one for me, and this is going back to the defense and that young core. Look, if Nate Wiggins is back full go and is out of the doghouse, or we don't call it that, we call it the love shack, as Dabo likes to call it. If he could get out of the love shack and get back out there and get a lot of reps, then I think you see Nate Wiggins make an impact. But to me, and it's a guy we've talked about him several times this year, and the more I watch him, the more I love the way he plays. That's Khalil Barnes against this high octane passing attack. Look, Nate Wiggins, you need him to have a good game. Andrew Makuba, you need him to have a good game. But do not underestimate the impact that Khalil Barnes could have on this game.
yeah, I agree with that. And he's been dynamic all year. He's had a couple interceptions, a couple fumble recoveries too, which is huge. But I mean, I'll give my X factor, and I'll go a little bit differently, but I think it still remains on the defensive side, and I think it's T.J. Parker. I
Yeah.
think if you limit the amount of time that Drake May has, I think if you limit the amount of time that the running game has, I think you stimulate one of the hottest teams in football when it comes to if the passing attack is working well. And I'm my X factor not only T.J. Parker, I'm going to say that whole defensive line. Tyler Davis senior night. It's probably it's I think it will be his last game in Death Valley. He's going to the NFL draft. He wants to make sure that his last game in Death Valley is a win. And whether that's limiting Drake May or stuffing that run offense that has been so dominant for the Tar Heels all year, I think that it's certainly on his mind. So despite the secondary being able to do its job and being very dominant in lockdown throughout the especially at this point in the season, I think the front four are going to need to have a big game if North Carolina is going to stay off the board and limit Drake May to having time in the pocket.
Yeah, so my X factor is I'm gonna go on offense, and I'm gonna say Bo Collins. I think Bo Collins has to have another big game. He did well last game. I think he was targeted like 6 times maybe, and he caught 5 of them. Normally if he gets thrown the ball 6 times, you might see him catch 2 of them. So I think he's got to have a big game. And then I'm gonna go Stellato. I think Stellato needs to have a big game.
Yeah.
He needs to go out there and play his butt off and get back to his form where he was at Florida State. So those are kind of my 2 X factors. Everybody knows about Cade, so he's not really in. I think he has to play well, but I think the receivers really have to play well, and I'm not worried about the running backs. So
Yeah, and one more,
Yeah.
and Clifton, we mentioned his name on the our previous episode, but how about Hamp Green as an X factor in the punt return game?
mhm.
We saw him really make an impact on that game against Georgia Tech just by being able to get 15 or so 10 15 yards on punt returns. Multiple times he got Clemson in great field position and plus territory just by being able to pick up those hard-earned yards on Yellow Jacket punts.
I was going to say, yeah, and he didn't just make he did. It wasn't just the Georgia Tech game. He almost broke one in the Notre Dame game.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he was this close to breaking one in that Notre Dame game. But I do agree with you that if he can get 10, 15, I think that helps us out a lot.
Yeah, it does. And I'll tell you who he reminds me a little bit of. Now, we haven't really seen him factor much into the receiving game yet, as this former Clemson player did. But in terms of what he's doing on special teams and on punt returns, to me, Hamp Green could be very much like an Adam Humphries type player in the making.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, so just think about that Adams
I
Humphries
could
type.
definitely see
Sure
it.
hands, tough, hard nosed, blue collar kid, and just does the little things to help you win. And oddly enough, Adam Humphries went to the same high school that PJ Hall of the Clemson basketball team went to. They were both Dorman Cavaliers. So when you think about the pipeline that Clemson has turned out of Dorman High School, Jordan McFadden, offensive lineman for multiple seasons, made an impact. Also a Dorman Cavalier. So, um, but guys like that, they just do so many things to help you win. So I think Hamp Green could absolutely play a big factor and be an X factor in this game on Saturday.
I think another big player, special teams again, Aiden Swanson. You look how he
Yes.
performed
Oh
against
yeah.
Notre Dame. You stuff him inside the 5, inside the 10. You're going to limit Drake May's passing opportunities, and they're a team that likes to do the big play midfield. You can't give them good field position because they'll make you pay. And especially if you put them in their own end zone, that front 4, like I said, being an X factor, they'll be able to get to Drake May, pressure him a little bit, stress him out, that type of thing. So I think especially if Clemson aren't functioning on the offensive side, the special teams is going to need to come in clutch when it comes to spotting the ball in a place where North Carolina can't take advantage of.
Yeah, they're going to have to flip the field for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, field position, to me, I agree 100%, especially with an offense as potent as the Tar Heels. The further back in their own territory you can pin them when they start a drive, I think the better off you're going to be. And I think it sets the defense up a little bit better to just kind of pin their ears back and bring that pressure on Drake May and try to force him into making some mistakes. But so we've broken this game down. We've looked at it from the offensive and the defensive side. We've talked X factors, who could play a big role in this ball game. So as we kind of end this preview for the game on Saturday, let's throw out some predictions. So as always, Griffin, you first. And we'll go Cliff, and then I'll bring up the rear. What you got? How do you see this one shaking out?
I've been going back and forth. Well, not in Clemson, North Carolina's favor. I think this game is a Clemson win, especially on senior day. I think Dabo and his big guys, they're not going to lose their last game in Death Valley. It's just a matter of how many times that the Clemson defense can stop UNC. Do I think they stop them every time? No. But I think the Clemson offense, I think some turnovers, especially on the defensive side, will help put Clemson in a good field position. And I think Clemson pulls away at the end. My score prediction is going to be 38-27 Clemson.
Wow, I thought you would go a little bit higher than that because I am. Um, I'm gonna go.
I'm a low guy.
Yeah, I know you are. I do. I do think it's gonna come down to the defense. But I think our offense is gonna have to score some points because North Carolina's. We're not gonna hold them every time, and like you were just saying, and I think my score is gonna be like I'm gonna go in like 41-38, maybe 41-38.
All right. Well, I'm gonna split the difference a little bit. I too think it's a Clemson win, and I think the offense right now is doing a lot of good things. I think North Carolina's defense is just not that good, and that's again, it's not trying to be a disrespect to the Tar Heels. The numbers are tangible. They are what they are. It's after 10 games. What's to say? They are who we thought they were. So I do think that Clemson's going to be able to put up a lot of points, especially if you limit the turnovers. I think the run game sets up the passing game. I think Phil Maffa, Will Shipley, Cade Klubnik, Tyler Brown, Troy Stellato, Bo Collins, I think they have a big game, and I think it's a nice collaborative effort. But, guys, I think the defense right now is just playing at such a high level. I'm going to get bold on this, and I don't think North Carolina is going to score as many points as people think they are. Clemson 45, North Carolina 24.
There you go.
So
All right.
we'll see.
Hey,
I can see it for sure.
I
I'm
just
usually a
want
little
y'all.
more conservative in my score picks. I'm going bold this week.
There you go.
As you should.
Yep. So I just want y'all to know I am 34-12 right now and leading in the Gridiron Gurus. I just want you to know that I'm number.
I'm right behind you, Cliff.
I just want you to know that I'm number one.
I'm right behind you. I'm right behind you. So you better watch out. You better watch out. I'm coming.
It's things like this is why I don't play the lottery.
So,
I swear.
it is your turn to buy a lottery ticket.
Look,
You called the blowout.
I think it's your Clifton. I think it's your turn because you've been spot on with these prognostications for the last 2 weeks. So yeah, you go out. We'll give you the money, and you go out and pick the numbers, and then we'll talk about how we're going to divvy up the money once we win.
All right, that sounds good. Oh my goodness.
3:30 Saturday afternoon from Death Valley. Should be a raucous atmosphere. I think these Clemson Tigers are going to come out and play a heck of a ball game. The final game at the Valley for the seniors. They'll run down the hill for the final time. It's always an emotional moment, but things are trending in the right direction right now. I think that continues on its upward climb on Saturday. So we'll see if the Clemson Tigers can come out and get it done for the final time at home here in 2023. Either way, we'll be right back on Around the Paw next week to tell you all about it. But until then, I'm Garrett Mitchell for Griffin Barfield and Clifton Kennedy saying, go Tigers, beat the Tar Heels.
Go Tigers, beat the Tar Heels.
Tigers.